Alchemy Radio.
Alchemy Radio. Alchemy Radio. Alchemy Radio. Analyze. Conceive. Believe. Are you tuned in?
Hello and welcome to Alchemy Radio, where the only thing we ask of you is that you keep an open mind. Today's first guest is Gerald Celente. Gerald was born in the Bronx in New York, and he had early political experience running a mayoral campaign in Yonkers, New York, and served as executive assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate, which Celente called the worst job he ever had. From 1973 to 1979, Celente travelled between Chicago and Washington, D.C. as a government affairs specialist. In 1980, Celente founded the TrendsResearchInstitute, at first called the Socioeconomic Research Institute of America, now located in Kingston, New York, publisher of the TrendsJournal, which forecasts and analyses business, socioeconomic, political and other trends. Celente has described himself as a political atheist and citizen of the world. Gerald, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me, John.
Fantastic to have you on the show. Really excited about the chat we're going to have. And I suppose let's get straight to the thick of the action. One thing I would like to talk to you about is Europe. What the hell is going on, Gerald, at the moment in Europe? I mean, you've been predicting trends for so long and they seem to be so accurate. What's happening?
Well, it's the same thing that's happening in the United States, same thing that's happening in China, and that's a lot of cheap money flowed into the markets, created bubbles. Now the bubbles have burst, and they're trying to fix them. And the way they try to fix them is they have this white shoe boy language. Over there they call it austerity measures. Over here we call it too big to fail. So what they do is they steal the people's money, and they give it to the banks, because the banks made bad bets. And hey, banks can't make bad bets, because if banks make bad bets and they start losing money and have to close down, then the whole world ends. That's the fairy tale. So it doesn't end. Nothing happens. These are a bunch of money junkies that don't like losing. They're gamblers. And gamblers with a bad attitude. So they want their money. I want my money. I made a bad bet. Screw you. I'm going to steal from you what you have. But we'll put a name on it. As I said, austerity measures. That means we'll cut your pensions, raise taxes, increase your retirement age till after you die, and anything else we could squeeze out of you. Raise VAT taxes. We'll make up new things like water taxes. We'll make up anything we can to squeeze every penny out of you. So that's what's going on, and it's the same thing worldwide. In the United States, they call it too big to fail. Too big to fail? Who made that one up? This is supposed to be the thoroughbred of capitalism. In capitalism, you rise and fall on your own merits. Hey, wait a minute. Not us. Oh, you know who we are? We're the bankers. There's a picture on one of our spring trends journals, the cover. And it shows Jesus Christ beating the money changers out of the temple. Mm-hmm. But the money changers are now Goldman Sachs gang, Dexia, Bankia, and all these guys dressed up in those, with those blue and white ties on, running out. Think about it, John. The only time that the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, becomes violent, is when he picks up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple. Hey, wonder why? And the same thing is going on now. It's the money changers. There is a new world order. It's the banking order. And it's being centralized. I mentioned China. China right now, they're dumping stimulus in there. They have the housing bubble has collapsed, the building bubble. They're lowering interest rates. They're trying everything they can to keep this thing afloat. So the entire global economy is under collapse. As a matter of fact, the IMF, if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's the International Mafia Federation. What they've done now is they've come out with a report just a few days ago saying how bad things are. Oh, son of a gun, blow me over. Would have never known. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, no kidding. There's no solving it. The only way they're solving it is they're going to take us to war. That's the way they do it all the time.
And that's something I wanted to talk to you about, Gerald, because it does seem like the drums of war are beating with regard to the Middle East. Iran, Israel, you've the US, you've China and Russia, and they all seem to be starting to kind of consolidate and take sides. And I suppose when you look at the economic situation globally, oil, etc., it all comes down to one thing: power and control. And is there any way that we're not going to face massive war in the Middle East the way things are right now? I mean, I see echoes of what happened before. For example, look at Weimar Germany and how Hitler came to power and what happened after that. I mean, is history repeating itself here?
You don't need Hitler to come to power. You had Bush and Cheney and Blair. I mean, you want to talk about warmongers? How about the beauties that they start? Mm-hmm. You got them going on now. How about that lovely Nobel Peace Prize winner, Obama? You know, how about that one, starting a war with that little chicken hawk over there, Cameron, and Sarkozy, who's gone now, against Libya. What did Libya do? I'll tell you what Libya did. They were sitting on some of those most precious sweet crude oil on the planet. What do you think they went into Iraq for? Because of their broccoli crop? You think they'd care if Iraq wasn't sitting on the world's second largest oil reserves? So, you know, it's just different, but it's all the same. It's about money. You left the money out of the power. That's about all it is. These are psychopaths, and all they are frontmen for the mafia, and the mafia, the money men, the military-industrial complex. You know, on and on. Look what's going on. Talking about atrocities. Look what they've done to Iran. They've committed war against Iran. They just call it a different name. We'll call it sanctions. We'll freeze them out. They can't sell or buy anything, basically. And so what does that do? What did Iran do? Oh, Iran might get a nuclear bomb, son of a gun. Hey, how many does the U.S. have? About 10,000. France, India, Pakistan. Who else? China, Russia. Oh, North Korea. Oh, how about Israel? Mm-hmm. Well, there we go. Wait a minute. We're not allowed to talk about Israel's 400 alleged nuclear bombs. I mean, who's kidding whom? You know, so what is it? You think about it. Why do they hate Iran? Because in 1953, the democratically elected government of Iran was overthrown, Mossadegh government, because he had the nerve to nationalize their oil fields. That's right. Threw out BP, which was then Anglo-Iranian, and Standard Oil, which is now ExxonMobil. And so they overthrew the government, put in the dictator, the Shah. I mean, that's all this is about. It's about oil. You think anybody care about... They care as much about Iran as they care about Somalia, if it weren't sitting on all that oil. That's all this is about.
And we're at the coalface of it here in Ireland with regard to economic meltdown, but you hear the constant cry of the media and politicians that, oh, things are going to get better and you can always replace us because it's that great word, a democracy. But I mean, you've spoken in your most recent journal about Einstein's theory of relative insanity, whereby definition nearly of insanity is that people do the same thing over and over again and they expect different results. So politicians voting, Gerald, talk to me about that. It's pointless, is it?
It's pointless. It's like voting for the Gambinos or the Bananos, the Democrats or the Republicans, whatever names of your parties there. You know, just a little background. I began my career many years ago running political campaigns in Westchester County in New York. It's the richest county in the United States. In those days, back in the 70s, quite affluent. And then I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. And I was also down in D.C. for several years as a government affairs specialist. And one of our chief writers in the TrendsJournal is Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the former assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. So we're guys that know what it looks like. You know who these guys are that call themselves senators, prime ministers, or chancellors, or congressmen, or whatever they want to... These are the same people you hated in high school that were the brown-nosers, suck-ups, glad-handers, that wanted to be class president or went to college, head of the student council. That's all they are. These guys are born on, Easy Street, and they try to make it as though, they're Main Street cats. Their daddy knew this or their father was that. And it is all this is. It's a club. It's Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. So, to me, I'm not voting for a lesser of two evils. You know, and I do not go out with lesser of two evils. I don't associate them. I don't do business with them. Why would I vote for one, lesser or greater? It's evil. And when you vote for them, the insanity is to expect different results, knowing that you're putting in the same power-hungry losers and that destroy your nation. What is it in the human spirit that allows people to do this? And not only do they do it, they wait online and clap and applaud, bow down and suck up. Can't wait to get an autograph. Guy put the arm around you. Hey, kiss my baby. Hey, how about kissing this?
Well, exactly, and we see the US gearing up for another presidential election. It seems over here in Europe, the only thing we hear about the US is maybe lip service to the latest war or blanket coverage of the US presidential election. So you've got Romney, you've got Obama, and they are two sides of the same coin. There's no doubt about that, surely.
Oh, they are, precisely. I mean, you know, they just perform differently. You know, one tap dance is better than the other. It's the presidential reality show. By their deeds you shall know them. I just went through a bunch of Obama stuff. I could give you more. Here's some more. How about he signed in New Year's Eve the National Defense Authorization Act? That's right, that great liberal. I don't know who you are. You know that? They could say, I could right now, the doors could come bashing down on my building, and they could say I'm in contact with a terrorist. That's right. How do I know you're not a terrorist? They say they are. What proof do I need? None. You know why, John? Because I have no charges against me. They don't need any. I don't get a lawyer. I don't get a judge. I don't get a jury. I don't get a trial. John Gibbons is a terrorist. What do you mean? What are you talking about? No, he's a terrorist. You had association with a terrorist. Jack, you're dead. That's right. That's the National Defense Authorization Act that Obama signed. And also, you keep going down the list. He wasn't going to keep those Bush tax cuts going. Oh, yes, he did. Oh, he was going to reverse the Patriot Act that robs our constitutional rights. Nope, he upped it. Oh, I got another one for you. How about sending some more troops over into Afghanistan to kill other people and to get killed? There's a real liberal for you. No, it's the same deal. It's the same guys. It's it's as I said, the Gambinos or the Bananos, and people better grow up. You don't have a representative form of government. They don't represent you. They represent the people that give them money. That's it. End of story.
And even that point is salient because it's quite transparent. All you have to do is look at the published lists of donators to these presidential campaigns, and that tells the story in itself. Exactly.
But again, people are blinded. They believe in their ideology. And as I said, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in anybody's political religion. You know, give me a break, man.
Yeah.
You know, cool it out. You know, don't tell me I have to believe in your jive. And I certainly don't bow to political gods. And I won't vote for one. And I do believe in God. And the God that I believe would call it a sin if I cast my vote for an evil, lesser or greater.
So, to a solution, Gerald, what are people meant to do? Because I can hear people shouting at their radios or their computers or whatever right now, and they're saying, right, well, we're doomed. We're looking down the abyss. What are we meant to do if we can't trust politicians? So have you any proposed solutions so that people can empower themselves as opposed to relying on the structures that are already in place that we know are actually enslaving us?
Yes. Send $39.95 to Solutions. I'm only kidding. Direct democracy is one of them, and you have a movement going on there in Ireland.
That's right.
That's pushing for it. That's to me is the prime one, not the prime one. One of the big ones. Switzerland does it. You know, there's 7 million people. It doesn't, or 11 million. It doesn't make a difference how many people there. You vote on issues. You want to go to war? Let's vote. You want to vote to put a tax on your water bill? Let's vote on it. You want to vote to put more VAT taxes? Let's vote on it. I don't need some little slimy politician to tell me what I should do, just to get it straight. So, well, let us vote. Let the people vote. You want to call it democracy? Let's call it a democracy. Let the people vote. If we could bank online, we could vote online. That's right. You can move trillions of dollars worth of dough around the world by the seconds. Certainly, we could have a pretty good system to keep our votes secure. And it'd be all transparent. And with all the the techno geeks out there, be sure it's a legitimate system, unlike the illegitimate systems they have now. Number two, and this is the big one, everybody has to look within themselves. Am I the best person that I can be? Have I used the gifts that only I have, the unique gifts, to bring them to higher levels and keep rising to higher levels? You hear the sirens?
I can. They're coming for you. They're coming for you already.
I guess you are that terrorist. Anyway, you have to bring yourself, and if you bring yourself to higher levels of, in my belief, and again, my motto, taught to me by my dear father, may his soul rest in peace, is think for yourself. I don't tell anybody what to believe. This is the way I see it. So the way I see it is that when you have courage and dignity and respect and integrity and passion, you don't take anybody's crap because you know who you are and you keep trying to be better at who you are. Mm-hmm. And so you don't succumb to these little weasels that are called politicians. And you demand that they rise to a higher level as well. And we've all sunk into a lower one, from the junk we eat to the junk we listen to the junk we read, to the junk we watch. Junk in, junk out. So I believe there's time for a renaissance. There was one before. It happened following the Black Plague. People realized that what they were doing to themselves was destructive, and the people that survived were the ones who were living the higher life. They were out in monasteries and convents, eating clean, living cleaner lives. And I'm not a monastery or convent guy. I want to make that really clear, But what I meant is they got away from the filth and the slime of the cities and the destruction around them. And they brought a higher level. They looked back, and they used to say at the height of the Renaissance, "Ali Romana e alla Antica" in Italy, in Florence, to describe the quality of their work. And look at the work we put out now. Look at the crap. They call McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. They call that food and coffee. It's crap. So the thing is, support your local. Do as much as you can locally. Buy local. Be local. Build your community. But it starts with the individual. There's that wonderful Hindu saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Anybody that's practiced at anything knows what I'm talking about. I mean, to get good at anything, you got to practice every day, all the time. And a good friend of mine, Sonny Rollins, famous saxophone player, he's in his 80s, greatest living saxophone player, and from the old school. He practices every day. I believe that when the people are ready, the leaders will appear, but they have to practice. And the leader's not ready to show up because the people wouldn't know if it was there. So that's what I believe the change could come from.
And I have to say, I fully subscribe to that view. I think it really is about the power of the individual, and we have that within us. As long as we're willing to actually make that move and stop granting our power to the powers that be, because we are the ones who should be in control of our own destinies, be it financial, be it in terms of food, be it in terms of what we watch or listen to use your examples.
Of course. And again, Ireland, Catholic Ireland, my God. The teachings of Jesus. What could be more than, closer than that? Wouldn't Christ want you to be the best that you can be? Wasn't that what Catholicism is really about, and the foundation of it, is to live to the highest level of the potential of the human being? Not to follow. Not in the catechism, man. That ain't part of the deal. Follow your leader? Hey, follow this. What are you kidding? I wouldn't follow these cats across the street. They want to talk to me, they could come over here, we could have a conversation. I'm not following. Leader? Lead what? Lead you into destruction. You come into this world alone and you leave it alone. And to me, speaking only for myself, I want to leave it on a high note, knowing I'm the person who I said I was and did what I believed I would do.
So, Gerald, do you think that in the short term and medium term that the outlook is good, or is it bad? Because we've spoken about the solutions. Do you think that people are ready to actually act on that yet?
It's up to the individual. I can't speak for other people. A renaissance could happen in a blink of an eye. It could be an awakening. You know, when enough people awake internally, it all changes. When enough people change, the society changes. So, of course, something has to happen quickly. And, it's a time to me for radical solutions. And I don't mean radical in a negative way. I mean radical in the terms that I was in an earthquake in Chile, 8.8 earthquake, the worst earthquake on record. Back in 2010, I was on the 14th floor of the Crown Plaza Hotel. As soon as I felt the first rattling, as my buddy, I was out of bed, man. And he said to me, "Did you feel that?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." And he said, "It was just a little, tremor." He said, "It's over now." And I hate people telling me what is,
Yeah.
I just the place started letting loose seconds later. And I ran down 14 flights of stairs best I could. It's the building swaying and things breaking and falling. And I kept thinking as I'm running down the stairs, what's going to happen is all these other people from 14 flights below start coming out. How am I going to get around them? I want to get out of here. I went down 14 flights of stairs. There was not one person in front of me.
Incredible.
Everybody froze.
Incredible.
So the point being is that there's time for moderate decisions, and there's time to act in a critical situation. And there's a critical situation. It doesn't take moderation. It takes a reverse course, changing course. We can see the danger in front of us, and we're heading to it. Being a trend forecaster is like being in the catbird seat, in a ship. You're looking ahead, and you see it in front of you, and you say, we have to change course. And that's the way we see it. So right now, we think it's time for dramatic shifts to take place in order to save the future.
Gerald Celente, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you in Dublin on the 6th of November in the Gibson Hotel at the Point Village in Dublin 1 beside the O2. Doors are at 6:30pm. The event kicks off at 7 o'clock with an introduction from Aidan Killian, one of Ireland's hottest comedians at the moment, and Stefan Kramer, who will be talking about why buy gold and gold price manipulation. And of course yourself then speaking about latest trends, banking scams and direct democracy. That's Dublin, November the 6th in association with One World Chronicle and Celtic Gold. For more details on the event, people can log on to oneworldchronicle.com. Thank you very much for joining me on Alchemy Radio. I have the power, you have the power, we have the power. Gerald Celente, it's been a huge pleasure.
Thank you very much, John. Bye-bye now.
Alchemy Radio.
Alchemy Radio.